You're probably here because you saw the reminder of our office hours that today we'll be talking about reports. Um, by no means am I an expert in any of this stuff, but I have just done my best to try and pick up some things to pass that along. So um, we're definitely not going to be getting into everything, but like I said, just kind of touching on some key stuff that will hopefully beef up your knowledge here.
Reese,
Yes.
it's Mary Jo. So when I went to get the link, I saw that you had sent something out saying that things should be resolved by now. And so I did send you an email, but I just sent it right now. I checked, I had been trying to delete something from the front page, and it allowed me to mechanics of it, but then when I went to check it, it said 403 forbidden.
Did you delete the page?
No, I just took it off the front page.
Okay,
That's what I was trying to do.
okay. I'm not
It's probably
entirely
still there though.
sure but it was you trying to delete it, not unpublish.
I was not trying to delete it nor unpublish. I was just taking it off the front page.
Okay, so demoting it.
It's a calendar item, so it would remain in the calendar.
Okay. Um,
So if you can look at that later, I don't know.
yeah, because I was trying to replicate it with our demo site, but I wasn't able to reach an error. But maybe
Oh,
with
well, we
more
could look at
details
it
from
later
you.
if you want.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely want to get into that. And if anybody else has a similar situation, please let me know. But that should be resolved. It was an unexpected error where it was just work that had to be done by request of the National League. And so the error wasn't evident until it was already pushed to be live. So it was just something that couldn't have been prevented before it happened because it was just an error not visible in the development stage. Jan.
We also got some 403 messages that I've never seen before, but it was in a form, one of our observer report forms. The person got really windy with lots of words in the form. So we just chalked it off to that maybe the file was too big to save. I don't know, but we've never seen it before.
Was this recently?
Yeah, 403. Yeah.
Do you remember about what time? Because the issue was resolved about an hour ago. If it was happening prior to that, we can, assume that it was because of that error. But if it's still happening, then we want to get into that.
Okay, no, it was prior to that.
Okay. But let me know if you want to test out that form or any of the others that were affected, and let me know if it's still having an error. Otherwise, then you should, be good to go.
Okay.
Thanks, Jen. And then Jennifer.
I just wanted to say I was on our page, Mary Jo's page, just now doing some editing, and it was fine. So
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what she was,
In your edits, did you have any
I had some edits.
But in those edits, did you do anything similar to what Mary Jo did, like demoting an item from the front page?
No.
Okay.
No. But
I'll find out later what she was editing.
But yeah, we'll test later. We'll definitely want to test that one.
She doesn't trust me.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I have a note of that so we can test out if there's a particular error with your league on demoting items from the front page. But okay, so let's get on back to what we're going to talk about today. One thing that many of us probably already use, because it's a session that we talked about before, was Google Search Console. The new GA4 is quite powerful to easily connect our Google Search Console to it. So it adds some reporting once we connect them. Specifically, it is, let's see which reports. It's the Google organic search queries, and then the Google organic search traffic. Those, I think, are two kind of reports that are available through your Search Console, but we can make them available through your GA4 dashboard, which is really nice. So if you are there, you'll go to Admin. And this step is really easy because it's just kind of, we have to just get it done and then wait. So once we're in the admin section under the property, scroll all the way down to Search Console links. And then you'll most likely have, no links yet. Once you click link, you will have the 3 steps for the setup. With choose account, since I am like the admin of our Search Console accounts, but I have assigned, whoever webmasters as owners, you as an owner should see your own property listed. If that is not the case, then I may have to, fix how your role is set up for your Google Search Console property. But once you select the right one, and you're only required to select one, you'll confirm that, and then you'll choose your web stream next. And it's really just kind of choosing from the list that's provided to you. Like this, I have just one data stream. You'll probably have that same case where you don't have to scroll through a list. You're kind of just clicking choose and then have one to choose from. And then we go next. And we're just confirming that, things match here between the Search Console property that I manage and the web stream, excuse me. Let's go ahead and submit. And so we don't get any indication about, how long this is going to take, but it usually is about 24 to 48 hours. I feel like that's usually the amount of time that the analytics takes to update. And that should be information that will be available under reports and acquisition. So unfortunately, we won't see it immediately, but that should pop up over at least a day or two over time. So that's one where I wanted to get started. When it comes to like the reports that are already pre-made here for us, I feel that they aren't as easy to drill down into as the UA reports were. And so that's where Explore comes into play. It is definitely different than the UA because we're kind of having to start from scratch in a sense. But the good thing is that there are several templates to choose from so that, if you were brave enough, and it's really not that scary of a thing to start off blank, which we'll definitely do today. But if you wanted to have a little bit of guidance in the report that you're trying to create, you can choose from these templates up top. And I think that this opens up to a wider range of options. Yeah, so if you click template gallery, you get a few more options there. But let's see, I have, in case anybody is interested in reading up on this, and I will definitely have a lot of resources. So I will save these so that we can get them all together in the office hours wrap up as well. So that's just an explainer on the explorations. Close that up for now. Okay. So actually, before we go to blank, we're going to go through to path exploration. So compared to the UA version, this would be, I think it was like behavioral flow, or it was something that had to do with the behavior. And so this is similar in the ways that we're capturing a big bucket of folks at the beginning, and then through each step, we are breaking them into several smaller buckets. So with the path exploration, we are always starting with, well, actually, let's see. It looks like, yeah, the event name cannot be changed, or the starting point cannot be changed. But beyond that step, I guess technically 1, and beyond can be set to be a different dimension or metric. And so we are actually able to see from a session start, not just being able to see folks are going to page views, they're scrolling through, maybe they're clicking. This time we're able to see exactly which pages they are landing on. And let's see, when it comes to adding another here, because now beyond that, I want to see if we can, as step 2, see what the events are. Now when it has the session start. So let's see about, there we go. Okay. So clicking through for each, I guess I refer to them as kind of buckets within, you know, the first step or beyond, that will open up the next step. Since we did change this dimension here, and that was the reason why it condensed down on us automatically. This, though, I do want to change back to event name because it will tell us what folks did once they reached this page. So I think that that's quite helpful because when we go to the events report, it's usually just telling you what the events are and not giving you any identifying information. So this is a way that you can identify, you know, sessions started, where did they end up? And then once they ended up on that page, what exactly did they do? And that's through the event names. So that's
And so,
a
Amaris,
report there. Yeah.
what is an event? Is the event just what you're asking it, or is it, what is it?
No, that's a good question. Events are, I will drop this as well into the chat, but a quick definition. They are like what a visitor does beyond just a page view. So once they are viewing a page, that is usually what like the UA properties would pick up. Anything past that, UA property was not set up to take that advanced event measurement, but GA4 does automatically. So past a page view, folks will click, they'll scroll, they'll start a form, they'll submit a form, they'll share to, you know, social media, all those different activities. There's a lot of different ones that are just automatically detected by Google Analytics.
Okay.
So, yeah, they're super, super helpful because a lot of it takes, you know, no extra configuration from our part. But then when we start talking about wanting to know about, you know, maybe you want to know the submissions to just this specific form, we start to get into the custom either events or dimensions. But they are quite powerful to just have in our back pocket.
So oh, my sound is terrible. So what you're looking at now, you're just looking at the top item. How reliable is your?
Sorry, I try to zoom in. I did not expect it to. There we go. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so you're in the third column, we see clicks and scrolls and stuff. Oops.
Let me change that back. Sorry. There we go.
Okay, that's for the top item, right? How reliable is your news source?
Correct. And it will probably be easier for you to see on your own screen. It being casted on mine right now over video is probably hard, but you can see kind of the lines go from the top and go down to the ones on step 2. So that visual will help you kind of know which paths you're focusing on.
Okay.
And then I do have to click on it to collapse it. But yeah, so now I'm opening it for the second one, vote no on issue 1. We see that there's quite a few different events that were taking place on that particular page. And then we could just keep going. And then just as we did with step 1, whoops, got to click through to one of these to create my step 2. I'm going to change that back to event name. And I guess with the way that this particular path is set up, I'm not sure how much more information we'll get if I click through. So I selected click. Yeah, it does give us some more details, but it's not necessarily giving us more insight into what, further steps were taken. So I think with this kind of form or a report, I'm trying to see if there's maybe another option. Yeah, they're not too insightful once we get to step 3, but that's okay. I think this type of report, starting off with, your event name, you can get as far as step 2 or adding 2 steps and get some good information there.
Is this cumulative or is it just one person going, this is,
This is for all users.
okay,
Yeah, so any user that started their session and ended up on this page is included in this 10,000 plus bucket.
thank you.
And then as we know, we can kind of mess around with these segments. Let's see. We come over here, there isn't a segment selected because it's just all users. So we can drag and drop. Either drag and drop or click and select one. I don't know if my drag and drop is working right now. And so segments, somewhat similar to filters, just, show you a portion of your data. And then let's see. With the dimensions, I think those are what are, oh, actually, let's see if I can try using this. Does that not allow me? I guess not. Was trying to see if we could use the device category as the kind of starting point, as the main dimension, but it looks like you can't change that there. Let's try it with the filters. That is definitely going to, it won't show us side by side. So if I select device category and I choose to filter, oops, exactly matches. Oh, I wanted it to be a choose from, there we go. Mobile, it popped up. Okay, so device category, if I add this as a filter to just show mobile, as we've seen in other reports, sometimes we'll see the information kind of side by side or like line graphs on top of each other. With filters, we are just seeing that specific data that we're requesting. So I'm only seeing mobile users. Desktop and tablet users are not included in here, and there is a note about them being excluded. So that's just worth noting there. And so that the path exploration is a nice one, since you can have a little flexibility in the way you take the steps. But since I was over here trying to mess around with the dimensions, maybe let's try that blank
Oh, Amaris,
exploration. Yes.
can you go back to that really
Yeah.
quick? I have a quick question.
Yeah. And then a thing to note too, it saves automatically. So as soon as you start creating one, it's just already saved, kind of like Google Docs. Yeah, go ahead, Lynette.
Oh, okay. So on the first thing that says how reliable is your network, step 2 is blank. So does that mean that no one did anything but scroll on that?
It is only blank because I have this one selected down here, vote no. But as you open and close ones, I have them all closed. So step 2 has disappeared. But if I click any one of those, it reappears again.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the light blue path is kind of hard to see, but you can kind of tell, like if I click on or hover over this, you can kind of see the bit of path that is coming from the starting point. And it's the same idea. If I click open, you'll kind of see that bit of path of, where it's coming from.
Okay, thank you.
But it seems it didn't save your step 2, which was event name, right? You have to.
I did have it as here as my step 3. Let's see, is there a way I can export the data, but I don't think that's what we're looking for. We can duplicate it. No. Let's see what that did. So I just have have 2 versions. I'm just going to open it back up and see if it might have saved how I left it. Oh, did it not duplicate it? Okay. Yeah, I don't know why it didn't save that way at first, but this one is the duplicated version. Oops. Oh, awesome. I did not realize that I could change the template from here as well. So the technique allows you to change, we were working with path exploration, but now I want to try creating one on my own. So I'm just selecting freeform. If you were wanting to do this, I would just suggest clicking the plus sign, and then you can start fresh there. Otherwise, if you're okay with overriding an existing one, go for it like I did. So this one, I'm not even sure what kind of information we're trying to look for. Let's see if I don't know. I probably should have came with some ideas in mind. So let's just kind of maybe build and then we'll name it. So we definitely want to see all US traffic. And we aren't going to see anything yet until we choose a dimension and possibly until we choose a metric as well. So we can choose from other dimensions. These that are listed are typically either, I think they're listed here because they were related to the path exploration, but you have the ability to add in any dimension that you see fit. Campaigns is one that I wanted to talk about this time, but I definitely wasn't prepared yet, but I'll make a note because I think that's a powerful one. Let's see. So let's talk about source. Let's say source and medium, since that will be, was it organic or direct? And then where that source would have been. So now here, whoops, I can double click on that dimension and it'll automatically go into the rows section, or I can drag and drop or select. So you have a few different ways. When it comes to the pivot, I haven't played around with this one. We'll leave that alone for now. So I think we're good with just one dimension. For the metrics, we have active users and total users. Do I have any selected yet? Not yet. So I'm forgetting, we have source and medium as our dimension. Let's see, as far as our metrics, the page and screen. Doesn't have any there. Okay, so page and screen must be only for dimensions. Let's try session. So we have source and medium. I'm going to have a couple of metrics that we want to see. So the engagement rate and the number of engaged sessions. Why don't we throw in the sessions as well so that we can kind of compare them all? The engagement rate we probably would be able to calculate from those, but that we don't want to have to do any calculations on our own. So I'm going to just choose those three for now and import. And I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. I'm going to double click actually all three of these. So engage sessions, engagement rate, and sessions. There we go. Not too much traffic though, which is a little sad. And this is all US traffic. I'm going to zoom out a little. Sorry, that
For
might.
MyLO, for all of MyLO, or for some, what are we looking at?
That is, I'm on the MyLO property. So this is for all of MyLO.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure why I'm getting 0 data in engaged sessions and the engagement rate. Let me double check the date range. That's a pretty good window. It's for the month. Yeah, I don't think it'll do me any good or any much better to open it up since we started using GA4 not too long ago. Definitely not as impressive as I thought that this report might be. We definitely get to see, you know, the source, whoops, sorry, the source and medium come up great on the left. Some of them aren't, you know, tracking as we would like them to be. But even this, like, that's great. We get to see, whoops, when they are emails. So that's really good tracking there. But yeah, definitely not as filled in as I thought that that might be. So let's try and swap out the engaged sessions and engagement rate and see if we can still kind of build off of this, since the sessions do provide us with some information. Whoops. Okay. So that is under our metrics for, let's see if there's going to be anything for that one. Conversions would be helpful, but that does require us to previously define which events would be defined as a conversion. So this probably won't be helpful now, but let me drop both of those in. The conversion value, I'm sorry, conversions and event value. Not sure if I have any conversions set up, but if I do, I want to test that out. Whoops, we might have to get rid of some of these others to see those come in. Oh, I forgot to hit import. There we go. Okay, so let's test it out with conversions there. I'm not sure if I have anything set up. Okay, I do. So let's see if we can get, whoops, maybe not do the unattributable one. So let's view users. I just right-clicked on the data and then selected view users. Oh. Okay, that is not offering information. I guess that's only available for the User Explorer. We'll go over that one. But I thought that it would open up for further analysis. Let's try again. No, unfortunately not. And that's okay. Okay, so again, you aren't able to like drill down further with this information. But being able to build it out, you at least get some data and you would know which are your conversions, which events are your conversions. So at least being able to provide numbers would be helpful, but you wouldn't be able to provide identifiable information if you were trying to say, you know, these events occurred and they started out with this source and medium. But let me go to the, I'm actually going to use this one here if I can. We're going to create the User Explorer. And we might have to, let's just start with a fresh one, sorry. So that User Explorer allows you to drill down into individual user activities. We don't yet have our, like the Google Ads or I can't remember what it's called, but that setting within Google Analytics, we don't have that enabled yet to start collecting user identifiable information. Mostly because it would require a privacy policy change. And so that's something that we need to review and see if that's something that we need and can go forward with. And then essentially, once we say the privacy policy is updated, it would be an option for any league to then use. Because right now, if we use the User Explorer report, we do get a breakdown of some kind of user information, but it isn't as full a picture as it could be. But if you do come over to the User Explorer, you can click onto that particular user. They're identified by their app ID, and it will give you a breakdown of their, I don't know why that, there we go. It'll give you a breakdown of their events. And the user properties, I think, yeah, they're just telling you the first user campaign or how they originally arrived to your site. So even without the user ID data being collected, you know, with the updated privacy policy and all that, you would still technically have this app ID as an identifiable piece of data, since you could go and you know, go back to this User Explorer report and match that number. And so that's kind of like a lifetime report or like a user lifetime report, since it is gathering all of the accounts and sessions for that one user. I'm not too sure of the time. Whoops. I wonder if it gives us a timeline. Okay, so it does tell us when they were first seen. So I'd imagine if I keep scrolling down, I'll have information since then. And even if you don't have, you know, the the identifiable information. You know, you may not know exactly who this is, but being able to see behaviors across the same user can definitely help. I see a question. Scroll to the right to see the timestamps. Yes, very good point there. So we do get timestamps. The date stamp is on the top, and then timestamp over to the right. And then this is the breakdown. Good thing to see, there are no errors. There were 47 conversions and 0 screen views, which I guess makes sense because they're technically page views. Yeah, so that is really nice. I would love to see what it looks like once we are in that place to, you know, enable that Google Ads or Google tracking information.
Emery, are you the webmaster for the California MyLO site?
I am informally. We no longer have our communications manager, and so it's somewhat collaborative, but yeah, since I am the MyLO customer support, it's just been natural to take over.
So what what would you do with these reports and things for your site? Because I'm not being drawn into this very I mean, I feel like I have other things that have much higher priority than trying to look into all this detail. So what would you do with your site? How would you use this? Do you think it'd be a big help to you?
I think that's why I use the word informally. I'm not using the reports regularly, and I have not. And so I can't give you advice of myself because I don't make use of them really at all. I'll look as needed, but I'm not a communications manager, and so I'm not regularly taking a look at these. But with that said, since you mentioned that you have some things that feel more important than, maybe trying to see a user's behaviors, one thing that I thought would be important would be tracking form submissions, since that is something that should be easy to do within Google Analytics. And I can jump over to that if we're ready to kind of talk about form submissions. Does anybody have any other questions about explorations for now?
No.
Okay. Yeah, they're definitely the Explorer is much more than the report section. But let's start out kind of somewhat easy with the form submission stuff. So in the admin section, we are going to provide a custom definition. And actually, before I get into it, let me just explain why. So over in the reports, we have the engagement, we have the events under engagement. And this is where we were talking about they track the page view and everything beyond that. So user engagement, the person has been active on the page. I think there's a definition. I just don't remember it off the top of my head. But they've been engaged with the site for a certain amount of time, so then that gets tracked as an event. As soon as a scroll happens, that's tracked as well. Clicks anywhere that a click happens. It doesn't even have to be on a link. It could just be anywhere on the screen. Those are tracked as well. For any that aren't yet tracked or you just don't see them here yet, we can typically do one of two things. We can use the Google Tag Manager, and it's actually easier than when we were trying to use it last time. Or specifically for the form submit, if we want to know what the or which form, we can create a custom, is it a dimension? Yes, custom dimension that would represent, or that would be the form ID, so that, you know, for form submit reports, we could say, well, that custom definition, or I'm sorry, custom dimension, once the event form submit happens, we could then build a report that says, from those form submit events, what was the form ID? And that form ID will usually be the node number associated with your form. And that's the way that Google would be, you'd tell Google that form, or that node ID, that would be the form ID. And then that way the tracking happens. And then I think that you would be able to not only go off of the form ID, but since that form ID would identify with whatever content it is, then you could choose the page title dimension, and you can see, rather than a form ID, you could see the actual form title. So that is the reason for setting up a form ID. So let's go to admin. Going to get a little wonky now, since it will require a little bit of just kind of taking a look at the HTML, but custom definitions. Let's see. Yeah, that's fine. I will set it up for all of MyLO. So the dimension name is this going to be for us? It's going to be what appears in the reports. So form ID, I think, is descriptive enough. And the scope, it is asking you just what it's related to. And since it's related to a form submission, that is an event. The good thing is that with every little form field, you have an opportunity to learn more about each one. And then the description, I think it only shows up for us. I'll just put that. And then the event parameter, these are predefined. And so typically we're just going to find what we specified. So these are predefined event parameters. I'm trying to see if I have that documentation. Okay, yes. So that, I think it was the last Google documentation that I dropped in the chat. It has the list of event measurement and parameters. And so that'll give you further idea of any parameters that are available. Since some of these, you know, form ID was not a predefined piece of information, we have to tell Google that it should, you know, start to identify this bit of information. So the custom definitions take some time to start collecting. It's going to be, again, about 24 to 48 hours. So let's say you had some form submissions before this. They're not going to be identified with the form ID. Any submissions that happen after the implementation of this will begin to be collected and tracked in that way. And this, to be able to see this in your report, you would have to come back to the explorations. I am blanking at the moment on how to set this up, but where's the chat? This is the custom dimensions and metrics documentation from Google that I was using as my, I was following along. So that was my way of finding out how to create that form ID. And then since we don't have any data, if we created the report, it wouldn't show up any form ID data. But if you watch that video, you'll be able to see what it is that we're trying to get at with that implementation. And then since I mentioned that the that Google Tag Manager is easier to use now with GA4, I wanted to show you at least one or two things in there. As previously mentioned, GA4 does a great job of automatically collecting events, and will spit them back out to you without you having to do much or really do anything further to set them up. But you have the ability to kind of force other events to be tracked. Maybe you have custom events that you want to be tracked. But those will require the Google Tag Manager. So let's see if I can hop over here. So I actually have an account set up in Google Tag Manager, but it is quite easy to do. It's essentially creating your account, just like how we create an account in Google Analytics, not the one that has the properties below it, but just kind of signing in and saying, you know, this is what the account should be. You'll also see that you'll have Google tags associated with your Google profile. So whatever profile you're logged into, the Google tags listed here are the ones that are either coming from the analytics accounts that you have access to. Some of these actually might be coming from just my MyLO website, but these are automatically brought in by Google. But let's come over to the account. If you create an account, I just want to go through the steps in case you are going to set up a Google Tag Manager here. So this is demo container for office hours. So far we just are required account name and container name, and these are pretty straightforward. Nothing that has to be, you know, exactly the way the URL is spelled or anything. These are just for your reference in your Tag Manager portal. Target platform is web, and then we create. It asks you to accept the rights and terms and all that, so we'll go ahead and click yes. Okay, and then here we are brought to install Google Tag Manager, which I'm going to skip for now because I was under the impression that our Google Tag should work. So I'm going to skip that for now, actually. And so now we get an idea. Well, I won't get into that. So sorry, I'm kind of all over the place a little bit. I have my new container. The container is where we are making our tags and where we can go into debug mode on our site. And debug mode allows us to test our tags and make sure that things are firing when they should, and things like that. So my first step here will be to actually create a tag. So when it comes to the first tag, we actually, when we set up our GA4 property, we actually had the option to do it in Google Analytics or in Google Tag Manager. And so that is probably not super necessary for us now since we've all kind of gone through that. But just in case, if anybody was still, you know, not yet in the Google Analytics world and they wanted to set it up, this would be a way to do so. But when it comes to, the measurement ID, it's asking you for this from your Google Analytics property. So you can come over and I am just going to, what was it called? Measurement ID. I'm just going to type in measurement ID so I don't have to go through admin. We're going to copy that. And this is just so that Google Tag Manager will know which property it is that we are trying to have those tags fired on.
Maurice, is it likely that we will only have one property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very likely that you'll have just one property. Well, actually, let me say this. There is probably a higher likelihood that you'll have 2 or 3. And I say that because MyLO has a GA4 property that overarches all of yours. So that's the second. And then most likely National League, since we are on my.lwv.org, they probably have another property that goes above ours. Because when I've been doing the testing for our session today, there have been different either Google Tag Manager containers or Google Analytics properties or measurement IDs that are visible. So it's definitely going to be yours, MyLO's, and most likely LWV's.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this initial one, I just named it configuration tag. You can name it whatever. It's just essentially the tag that will always fire at the beginning of a page being loaded. So with a tag, you always have to set up a trigger. So the tag says, here's the information, but we can't be given the information without the trigger saying this action was taken. Now we give the information. So we need to identify the trigger, and this trigger is going to be, because we want it set up to go off for every page, we're going to choose initialization. And that's it. So once we set up that trigger as initialization, we don't have to add any exceptions. We are going to save. And the reason we need this configuration tag is because any other tag we're creating after this, we have to associate it with this configuration tag. Okay, so there's that tag. Now to actually create the one I was looking to create, I'm going to kind of keep going back and forth a little bit here because I have existing tags and I essentially want to just recreate them on that new account. Let's first go for the share. We'll come over and do the grand finale with the form submit. But share is one, whoops. Share is share is one that is one of those automatically collected events. But if Google Analytics is not yet doing that, or if let's say, I don't know if it doesn't track events that maybe have a low amount of traffic or low count, but maybe are still done. If that's the case, you may still need to come into Tag Manager and kind of force Google Analytics to pick that up. So if that's the case, we're going to do as we did and start. Well, actually, sorry, before we start creating the new tag, we do need to enable additional variables. The variables are what come from the MyLO site, from the HTML. So the page URL, like that's a good one. We would be collecting it, copying it from our MyLO site and providing it to Google. So that's what a variable is. For the share, and sorry, I clicked on configure here in the top right corner. So under variables and under built-in variables, click on configure. You can check as many as you need now, or it's always something that, before you create a tag, you enable the necessary variable, however works for you. But since we know that we are working with a share button, and it's a button, most buttons are going to have a link attached to them, an href tag or an A tag. Most A tags are going to have a class associated with them. And so clicks here are referring to the A tags. These clicks are different than how I mentioned before, where Google Analytics tracks clicks and they're just any click on the page. These clicks, when it comes to Google Tag Manager, are the A tag clicks. So they're specifically hyperlinked. I'm going to go ahead and enable that click classes. And actually, I'm going to do the same for forms, but form ID, since we'll be getting that into the next example. But I'll do that. I've enabled those for now. I think it does it automatically. Yeah, no need to click save. Once you check those boxes, you can close. And then that's it. We have those variables available now. So let's go back to tags, and now I can go ahead and create it. So let's start new. With the tag configuration, this time we're going to choose Google Analytics GA4 event. And essentially this is, after you've created that configuration one at the beginning, you're probably going to strictly stick to GA4 event type of tag. And then the configuration tag, we have already created that. So when I click on that drop down to select one, you'll find the one that you just created. So configuration tag. The event name, it tells us use the recommended event names for best results. And that was one I did send. So that event, I'll just, like I said, I'll make sure to compile all these into an office hours wrap up so it's a lot easier to track. But I just dropped it in again. The event measurements and parameters, I would say if you are looking to create a new event, and I'm just going to pull this over. If you're looking to create a new event, it's a good idea to scroll this list just to check, because like share, the one I'm looking to do, oh, they actually don't have it. I'm surprised. But yeah, like that would have been one that I would have assumed would be there. And if the event name or tag that you're trying to create, the associating event name does exist, then I would just say use that and don't try and go with your custom like similar wording. So since that wasn't there, I'm just going to go with something simple, share. And I'll come back to that. I'll title the tag in a second. So the name of the event is share. The event parameter, we're going to add one. So the event parameter, we were talking about click class. So the parameter name, that's essentially kind of what it looks like in the HTML, what it would look like in line. So that's why I type it out with the underscore separating. And then when it comes to value, I don't want to put a static value. I want it to provide me with whatever value it's pulling. So that's where we click on, and sorry, let me go back. I don't know what that symbol is, but whatever, it looks like a Lego piece with the plus sign on top of it. Click on that, and then you select click classes. So this is kind of similar to tokens in MyLO, where that is representing a value. And we don't know that value yet until this tag is fired. So that's the tag. And remember, with each tag, we do need to give it a trigger so that it knows when to actually fire, when to operate. So let's enable or create the trigger. Oh, I forgot to enable additional ones here. Oh no. Let's see if it'll allow me to save. Okay, so I'm going to save the tag for now. This is never what you want to do, since you always want to have a trigger enabled and you know, not take a chance of forgetting. But we're going to call this GA4 event share. And we'll save that for now. So I messed up by not enabling additional variables. Or I'm sorry, I'm starting to get a little confused. So the tag Yes, okay. So let's try and configure. No, they should have been there. Let's try this again. So the trigger I'm looking for, there we go. That's a whole lot, many more options. Okay. I don't know why that didn't present itself before, but when I click on trigger configuration, I should see a good number of trigger types. Since we are talking about A tags, those are links. So we're just talking about links. This trigger is by default, they're always set up to go off on every single whatever type you've selected, or you can specify for it to go off only on some link clicks. And so this is where we're required to take a little bit of a deep dive into the HTML. So the click class, that's what we're looking for. And we want it to contain something that's going to identify just those that are being shared to social media. So let's come on back. Where do I have a window for MyLO? Whoops. I have so many windows open. All right, so we are trying to find the click class, whoops, for sharing to social media. So let me just come on over. I think it's our, yeah, it's our demo site. But the good thing is that, you know, if you were trying to set up this same tag for your self, then you don't have to, you could use the same click class that I am because it's the same for all MyLO sites. So essentially, I want to look at what the click class is for any one of those for links. So I have to inspect. This is where it gets wonky or wonkier. But the helpful thing is to use for Google Chrome, it looks like a little arrow pointing into a dotted box. It is an order, it allows us to select an element in the page to inspect it. And inspect it means just find its HTML line over to the right. So if I click on that, you'll notice that as I move my mouse, I'm given like the HTML information. And when I actually click on it, you'll see that that portion is highlighted off to the right. And so one thing that all these four have in common is that the click class, A class equals A2A underscore button underscore, and then whatever channel that is. So you could even create a tag to tell you which shares are specifically to Facebook, specifically to Twitter, and so on. But this tag we're creating is just to show us all four of those combined, because we're just going to pull out A2A underscore button, and that's it. We're not going to include the rest. So that is as far as we have to get into the HTML. That wasn't too bad. I come back to click classes, and it contains, could even be, starts with whatever, but we want to make sure that that is spelled correctly. Did I already forgot what the other portion was?
Button.
Button, thank you. A2A button. All right. And I think we can leave these blank. Yeah, I think that's fine. The wait for tags, I mean, I think it's okay. Since we have it firing kind of after everything else. So this one, since it is not on just the links, it is particular links. So we're going to say that the trigger or the action is a click, but it is a share click specifically. So let's save that. And usually, if you created the tag and the trigger, they're going to automatically already be connected, or, you know, because you would have made them together. But in my case, it did not allow me to, or it didn't give me the same amount of options. So we just have to click on the tag, click on the trigger, and then our trigger should be there now. Oh, I just realized my error earlier. Seeing this list kind of freaked me out. I was supposed to click on the plus sign. That was the missing piece. So don't do like me and save your tag without the trigger. You would click over to the plus sign. Yeah, and then we get that same information we got earlier. Okay, so I am connecting my click share trigger and we are saving. Okay, so now we have 2 tags and we can go ahead and preview. So what the preview allows you to do is check out your site in debug mode. Like I said, that's going to let you test out your tags and doesn't send them to be live just yet, especially if they're not working as expected. And now we just have to put in, I do not want to type, just have to put in our URL. I'm just going to copy and paste. And we connect. Yeah, so we get a separate window. I'm going to see if I can open these kind of side by side. But you'll notice that when you are in debug mode, it tells you connected, and up in the top left corner, it says lwv.org. So that was one of the reasons why, I mean, aside from us sharing the domain with National, that was the reason why I felt it definitely would have their Google tag. So, haha, okay. It does look like we might have to install that Google Tag Manager. Before I do that, so this here, GTM K95G, so on and so on, that is the newest container that I just created. It is telling us that it is not installed on the page, and that makes sense because I skipped that. I was trying to see if we could skip it, but I guess we cannot. But that's okay. I'm going to leave that going for now because I want to test this one here is my own demo site GA4 property, the G-V73 and so on. And then these other G- one of them is MyLO, the other one is going to be National League. But I want to test with the Google Analytics property to see if our tags fire as expected, because then we may not have to install Google Tag Manager to make this one work, if that makes sense. So I'm going to poke around. Let's see if, and it did. So that is awesome because then it saves you from having to follow those installation steps for Google Tag Manager. And the reason for that, the fact that you can skip that installation is because of GA4's new Google tag. So before with UA, we used what they called a global site tag. And it's that snippet of code that we have always copied and pasted so that the connection to your site and Google Analytics works. It was previously called the global site tag, and I think its functionality was a little more limited. Now with the Google tag, it's essentially, well, for me, it looks exactly the same as it used to, but its functionality is a lot broader. Like Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager, amongst other Google products, are able to just automatically work because you have that Google tag already installed on your site. So that's the reason why when we go to this particular one, being that that's what's associated with my Google Analytics 4 account, we're able to see, whoops, that new tag that we just created. So, whoops. Even though we're working in this container and creating all our tags in this container, when we go to debug mode, you would want to choose your own Google Analytics property, you know, from this list up here, because it will tell you which Google tags were found, and you'll want to select this Google tag or whichever one is for your own local. Any questions? Okay.
Maurice, is there any way to quickly tell which one is yours and which one is national and which one's MyLO?
The best way would be to come to your analytics and just say measurement ID, and then you can see which one is yours. Either that, or you can check your home page and see what code, or, you know, let me show you on my home page as well. Where do I have it? So if you, and sorry, I'm in my admin account, so it'll look a little different, but essentially the same. If you go down to your Google Analytics section, that's the code you'll be looking for as well. Same code, but depending on where you want to look for it.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
You're mentioning the US site. That's always been a little disappointing. Is it better now?
I'm not sure what you mean.
For the MyLO part that we needed for sucking in information to our sites, like it was hard for them. They didn't always update it, and you had to update it. And
well, right now we have the articles automatically feeding in, so that one is up to date. The action alerts are still manually done.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, so then let's test out now the form submit. As I had said earlier, the custom dimension we made would be a way to be able to track, or at least to be able to see which forms are being submitted. If you wanted to create a Google tag that, you know, was specifically about one form, you could do that as well. So let's actually do that. I'm going to close the debug mode. Okay. So coming back to my actual Google Tag Manager screen. So I'm going to create a new tag. This is going to be, again, a GA4 event. The configuration tag is the one you've already set up. Or if you haven't, you can always, let's see, none manually set ID. Yeah, that would be another way. But then you'd have to do that for every single tag. We are talking about form submit. And since I'm looking for just a particular form, I'm just going to make it easy on myself and add an identifiable piece of information. So for me, I think that that's the node. You could also, you know, just add the title. That piece is for you and what's going to show up in your report. So this demo site, I have more than one contact us form. That's the reason why I use the node. But for your league, you may only have just one contact form, which makes sense. You could just put, you know, contact. But if you are looking for the node ID, right click on the edit draft button and copy link address. And then you can pull that number out of there. And I'm coming back here. So that's just to tell me, not only is it a form submit, but it's specifically for that node. So similar to what we did before with the event parameters and the parameter name, we did click underscore class. This time it's form underscore ID. And we use form ID since that is just a bit of information or HTML that is specified for each form, and it's different for each form. And then as we did before for value, we're going to drop in that variable of form ID. And then this event, we're going to name it kind of similar, GA4 event form submit contact. And it does, again, doesn't have to be as long or anywhere near this, but just something, I think this title is what appears for you in your tag manager list of tags. And then the event name, that is what would appear on your events report on Google Analytics. So that's the difference between those titles. So that's the tag. And now the trigger has to be associated with that node. So we're going to create a new trigger. When we click on trigger configuration, we are this time going to only be working with form submissions. And instead of all forms, we want this trigger to fire on some forms. And instead of click class, we want form ID. And then, whoops, same as we did before, we have to go and find what the form ID would be. So I'm coming back over. All right, I have my contact us form open. Same as we did before, I'm going to inspect. This one is not as fun to find because the form is longer than, just a few buttons. I am not an expert at this, so I don't know if there's a way to quickly search. So what I have been doing, but again, since our forms are pretty standard across all leagues, you can probably go forth with what I will give you here. Okay, so I am seeing form information. If I can make that a little bigger. Okay, let's actually just copy this out of here. It might be easier to look at on a notepad. So what I did, and sorry, before I get to that, I used again, select an element in the page to inspect it. And I just hovered over the form. So just so that it contains the entire form. And I clicked on that. That didn't take me exactly to where I needed to be, but if I look up, then I see that tag above it starts with the word form. So that's essentially what we're looking for. The open tag, form, and then it follows whatever else. Within that, you'll see that there's an ID, there's a class, there's several other things. But I'm going to copy this. Let's check it out. Whew, that's a lot more than I wanted, but that's okay. But we can actually already kind of see it. I think it was there at the bottom, but let's see if it was here at the top as well. Yes. So we see form, we see class. We're not going to work with class. We're going to work with ID. So it does take a little bit of, having to kind of pinpoint through the line and really take a fine-tooth comb to find that. But you'll see that we have everything that we need here. So you can put this in its entirety. You can put just the node number, whatever it is that you want to do. Because remember that any other form ID will be starting with web form dash client dash form dash, and then whatever follows is unique to that specific node or page, whatever it is. So I just want that portion. I'm going to come back over here. So the form ID equals web form dash client dash form dash all that. So now we have a trigger. Whoops, let me just title that. So that is, again, I like to put the action that was taken. The last one was a click. This one is a form submit. And this is contact node 29703. And again, this title is just for our reference in Tag Manager. So it won't be on our reports. And we save. Oh, and then further save the tag and the associated trigger. Okay, So now we have it set up. We're ready again to go into debug mode to preview. So same as we did before. Whoops, I just want to have these side by side. All right. So we continue. And again, I'm swapping to this property or this tag. We'll just double check that these work. Yep, the share is still going. Okay, so this time let's submit this particular form. I'm going to test it in two different ways by submitting the actual form we're trying to track, and then I'm going to submit a different form to see if we accidentally trigger or, that tag. It should only be firing for this specific form. Oh gosh, it doesn't have any of my pre-provided answers. We're just doing a bunch of filler answers. All right. So we definitely saw form start, form submit. Huh. No, we are not seeing the form submission. Let me double check how I have it set up in. Do I not have that open? Oops. Sorry about that. Yeah, let me just double check how I set up the form submit on my original account here. Oh, I have this set up for all form submissions. That is definitely not what we want to do. Let's try that again. I don't know if I'll get a different result here, but I'm going to try resubmitting. And we should see, I think it was called GA4 event. I see form submit. Yeah. I'm going to take this as a separate kind of video task because I definitely had it working previously, but I think I'm just a little confused on how I had it set up. But form submission tracking, we'll get into this one for sure some more.
At least you give us hope that, it's, that if it doesn't work the first time or the second time, it's okay.
Right. Yeah, nothing is ever, it's never the end of the world, or like, if you can't do it, it's just not going to be done. You always have a chance to come back and try again. And who knows, maybe Tag Manager will be our next like thing that we're just diving into as we did with analytics, because it does seem to be a really powerful like partnering tool more than it used to be. I feel like you used to have a whole lot more knowledge as far as like developing when we were in UA properties if you wanted to connect the tag manager. But now it seems a little more doable with the GA4. But yeah, I have a note for myself because I definitely want to get that right, the form submission tracking. Any questions so far?
Maurice, it's Mary Jo. I'm obviously not gonna be working on any of these reports, but I do have a general question.
Mhm.
Are there any links that tell you about broken links?
That will be most likely in Google Search Console. Let's pull that up. Oops, not a typing or anything. Let me pull up a different property. Come on. Just do that. Excuse me. Okay. So I think it's URL inspection. No, performance. Is it? Sorry, I have to like reacquaint myself. No, this is about your queries. Links? No, I think those are outbound links.
I think it is URL inspection.
Okay. So this is if you know of like a page that is ending in that, or you have something that you want to check out. Let's see if I can find one
Yeah,
for
if you
myself.
scroll down, I think if you scroll down on the page,
On this one?
it's like this.
Or
Maybe it's pages.
pages? I think this is the one, pages. I think the not index pages are what you're looking for. There's definitely a lot that and various properties you'll have some pages that are not indexed, and that is natural for us because we have node ID versions of URLs, and then we have like the actual like vanity URL version where it has the pretty looking title and all that. So you'll naturally have some pages in here that are not indexed, and that's okay. We probably don't want to have every single page available on Google when it's, you know, three different URLs to one page. Google usually tries to stay away from that. But yeah, definitely the 404s or 403s, you can check those out.
If you double click on that, can you get more information where they're called from?
You would click on the reason, and then you would be told, come on, my page is frozen. There we go. It tells you the affected URLs. And so
Being called or the where it's called from?
these are the pages.
Oh, so what you really want is where it's called from because the link is.
That's a lot harder to find. But if you are here and let's say the 404s aren't as easy to inspect. Let me try a different one. Come on. Okay, so let's just see, crawled, currently not indexed. Those are usually pages that could include, or that bucket could include some pages where you're like, hey, I would like that to be available on Google, whatever it is. None of these look great, but let's just try this. So let's say I do want this item to be visible on Google. So I would go to the little, it was a little magnifying glass. I just hovered over the item and I clicked on the magnifying glass. This usually takes a minute. So it tells you that it's not on Google and it gives you some information. Oh, Liz, I think you might be able to find that.
Yeah.
So you do have to click through to each individual one to find some further information. That's not too bad, but
Well,
definitely
I think you
not enough.
really only care about referring pages that are your own site because you want to fix them if they're within your own site that you're linking badly to something on your own site, right?
I mean, even if it were outside of your site too, that gives you opportunity to know who or, what organization is it coming from? And you can then have that chance to reach out if it really were that big of an issue or error.
Right.
So yeah, if you come to one that you say this URL should definitely be on Google, then you just request indexing. As long as there are no current errors or, as long as the page is coming up perfectly and loading up and it's not set to private or anything like that, once you hit request indexing, Google will take a little bit of time, but then it will usually come back and have a green check mark and say URL is on Google. I'm not too excited to get this event on Google, so I'm just not going to do it. But definitely test that out if you find pages listed here that you want to see on Google.
So you did pages, and then what was the
Pages, and then I clicked on any one of these. So like crawled, currently not indexed, that was one that'll probably contain some pages you would want to be provided. And then okay, yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, you could go through each of these. I think the reason might be further explained. It gives you a little bit of information. Okay, yeah.
Well, sometimes you want the robots.txt to work.
Right, where you're kind of saying, no, either yes or no to have the bots travel your page.
Right.
But yeah, so definitely don't forget this tool, even though if you did take that step of connecting it with your Google Analytics account, that is awesome, but it won't give you everything that the Search Console does. I think that the pages and the performance are super helpful. The performance is probably something that you'll have in your analytics. So that's good because it's about the search queries that are performed. One other thing too about the Search Console are the links. I think this is interesting because you get to see your external links and internal, aside from other stuff.
So are you saying that there is sort of I don't, whether you have to set it up or not, from analytics, a way to see if there's a broken link?
You don't need to set them up or you don't need to connect them.
Does it come automatically as part of the report?
I
Is it?
don't think so.
Oh, okay. Because
Yeah.
okay. I always thought you could like automatically set it up to get some like general information, but okay. Well, thank you about the Search Console.
Yeah. I wonder. I'll take a
check
note.
everything, and I've never actually come across a bad link that I didn't fix, but it's good to know that that thing is there.
Yeah, because then you won't have to do like your own research or your own, finding of going across your entire website. You can just go to this list and go based off of that.
But there are other tools for that besides working. I mean, if you Google, you'll find tools.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not
But yeah.
particularly looking for one. Okay. I just wondered if it was a report that came automatically.
I'll look into that. I don't know. And I mean, even if it's not automatic, it may just require a few easy steps.
I was thinking if it's looking at what people are, looking at, and it kind of tells you the name of the page that it went to, I think, at least for the high ones. So if it were a bad link, I don't know, it just seems like that might be some information. So maybe if somebody ever sees it, they can let us know.
Well, there's something on the web that says, how do I find broken links in Search Console? And it says, it shows you some advice on how to use it.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure. Thank you.
I wonder if there may be like a report to pull up in Google Analytics. If you search like 404, it would include all URLs that have that, since the MyLO site does set up URLs that way. If they're clicking a URL and it's going to lead them to a 404, then that number is included at the end of their URL. So that might be a way.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, well, I definitely have some homework for myself. Not for next time. I think I'll bring this stuff out sooner than that, because as you know, for next month we are only going to have one session That's going to be, let's see, I think it is, no, not about my father. I think, is it the 18th? Yes. So we are just going to have one session next month on the 18th. And then our regular schedule will just stick after that. So then the next session won't be for 3 weeks after that on September 8th. But like I said, I do want to create a video on that form submission tracking from GTM. So that will come out, and then yeah, I'll just keep doing my homework to get better acquainted with the explore section. I think that's going to be super helpful. And then if we need to talk about GTM some more, the tag manager, then we'll talk some more about that. Oh, and I have a note about the campaigns as well, because that is something that could be tied to your analytics account.
And can we set aside some time for individual questions that we haven't been able to ask for the last, I don't know, at least 3 sessions? But I do want to, you're not going to get off because you're going to check my 403.
Oh yeah, yeah, we'll stick around.
Yeah. And I did notice, I thought, well, maybe it's my computer because I've had some weird stuff. So I figured out how to do stuff on my phone. I've never actually done that. And I still got the same message.
Okay. Yeah, 403s are usually outside of, or not associated with the user.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. But yes, yeah, we'll dedicate some time next session for sure to talk about non-Google stuff. Although I know you all just love it so much.
Well, those who get it, I'm sure are really excited about it, but you lost me at and anyway, you know that. So
well, don't feel bad. I almost
so
lost myself.
It's pretty heady stuff.
It is. It is.
It's really tough.
Life is too short.
Maurice, I had
Yeah.
one thing. You sent me a link this morning about the Twitter sidebar, and it said I didn't have permission to view it.
Oh no.
That I wasn't in the group.
Let me just drop the link to you.
Okay.
So it was brought to our attention that the Twitter feed is not working. And so I was trying to find some information on that, and I found that it was coming from Twitter. I'm going to drop it in the chat for you, Lynette.
July 14th. Okay.
And then, yeah, but I can't remember which site I was looking at, but I was on someone's site and I saw a Twitter feed and I was kind of flabbergasted, but I was in the middle of prepping for today's session that I have forgotten. So I'll poke around to see if that's still a thing, or if maybe that league had like a workaround, a different code that they were using. But as far as the last that we have heard of was that it was not working coming from Twitter.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Maurice, concerning Twitter, so I don't use Twitter, so I just went onto our website and I clicked the Twitter icon and it's asking me to sign in. Is that normal?
That is.
That happening before, but
I mean, there have definitely been some recent changes to Twitter,
okay.
And so I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, I'll have to try that. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the link that you sent me is general information, but it's not a fix, or
yeah, general information. Okay. And that was, I think, from that same date, from 7/14. So I'll see if there's any update, like I said, and then if somebody maybe came out with a workaround, I'll give you that note too.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you must be exhausted.
I think I'm gonna just do as many mindless tasks as I can for the rest of the day. I don't think I have brain power left.
Us too. We were just listening.
Well,
Thank you. We'll see you.
Yeah, thank you guys.